I think everyone knows what a unity clap is, yes?
Yes.
Let's start with a unity clap today, all right? We also say supporter. 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 Thank you so much for being here this morning for this important announcement. If I could ask everyone if you could please bring it in. It is great to be back in San Francisco after a long week in Sacramento. And I have to say, I am so proud that we live in a city that rallies together around community, that remembers our immigrant roots, and that remembers what the spirit of St. Francis is about. It's great to see everyone, but we know I wish we were seeing everyone in different circumstances. We live in troubling times. Due to the recent actions of the Trump administration, this is the worst time in recent American history to be an immigrant in the United States. In the past few days, Donald Trump has revoked over 100,000 visas. Even though immigrants contribute $60 billion a year here in San Francisco to our economy, over $700 billion a year to California. This fear that we've all been experiencing, as we know, is especially intense for our immigrant families who are undocumented due to a broken immigration system. Everything is getting worse for immigrants in Trump America, including for immigrant tenants. Let me start by saying that I believe the large majority of landlords in our city respect and value our immigrant communities and are law-abiding. But that being said, we are all still hearing too many stories of unscrupulous landlords around California who are seeking to avoid legal obligations by threatening to report tenants to immigration authorities in the Central Valley, in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and yes, here in the Bay Area. As a chair of the Assembly Housing Committee, we've received stories from advocates statewide, and you will hear some of these stories, of retaliation against tenants for reporting serious habitability issues, such as exposed electrical wiring, lack of repairs. We've heard about unlawful evictions where tenants are threatened with ICE calls if they complain. We've heard about new tenants who are taking over gentrifying buildings, who decide that they want to raise rents and target long-term tenants for evictions based on suspected immigration status. I'm proud that today, along with 9 of my colleagues in the California legislature, I'm introducing the Immigrant Tenant Protection Act of 2017, AB 291. Our bill would prohibit landlords from disclosing information related to tenants' immigration status, would prohibit landlords from threatening to report tenants to immigration authorities, whether in retaliation for legally protected activities or to influence them to leave. Our bill would provide tenants with the right to sue landlords who report them to immigration authorities, codify a legal defense to unlawful evictions based on immigration status, prohibit questions about tenants during discovery or during trial, as well as prohibit the attorneys of these landlords from reporting or threatening to report immigration status. We know, and our immigrant tenants know, that landlords have the power to destroy their lives with a single phone call. In recent years, I'm proud that our California legislature has enacted strong protections against similar threats in the workplace. It's time to provide tenants with the same protections. No one should live in fear simply because they pay rent for their home. I am so proud of the unity that our city represents, and we have a number of speakers today that reflect that unity. But starting first and foremost with someone who began his career fighting and representing immigrant tenants in public housing projects, someone who has stood up for immigrant tenants his entire life, the mayor of San Francisco, Mayor Edwin Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, former supervisor and now Assemblyman David Chiu, and thank you for your leadership in the state as well. I'm happy, more than happy to join Senator Scott Wiener, our Board of Supervisors, Asha Safi is here as well. We have a commissioner from our building inspection, Deborah Walker's here. Our, are you controller yet? Board of Equalization, Fiona Ma. Also want to say thank you to the Western Center on Law and Poverty, to the California Rural Legal Assistance, and of course, to the Mission Neighborhood Center right here that we're standing in at the heart of our struggle. We are in a housing crisis. We have been in a housing crisis for quite some time. And rather than build more housing, we have a president who wants to flex his muscles in trying to deteriorate our progressive values here in San Francisco and the Bay Area. And you know, Dave is absolutely right. Over 30% of our Bay Area population are immigrants. $210 billion in economic activity in the Bay Area alone is caused by our immigrants. And yet he feels that he's got to go after immigrants because of their status, their immigration status. This is horrible. This is not right. And the resistance has begun. And I want to say thank you to Assemblyman Chiu and to your counterparts, your colleagues, for thinking about this particular protection that we have, because while we may not have the cases here in San Francisco, people feel that they can do a lot of things and say a lot of things these days that shouldn't be said, that are not, that are threats, that are intimidation, and we don't want to get it out of hand. We actually want to stop it before it happens. Because if people do live in fear, they don't report crimes. They don't connect up with health. They don't send their kids to school. They live in the shadows, and we're at the center where people we've always said should never feel they're living in the shadows. Nobody is second-class citizens in the Bay Area. And that's why I am supportive of this bill. I want to see it to fruition, but I want it to be applied and implemented all across the state of California. We are in a fight for our immigrant population, and it's serious. And that's why we filed a lawsuit in San Francisco to make sure, because on the face of it, it's illegal what the president is doing. It's not even constitutional. But also to have his nature of intimidation have friends on his side do the kinds of things that we expect will be done. And just watch. It might be in housing. It will certainly be in employment. And it's certainly happening in our airports. The division of our people. And we cannot allow that to happen. We've got to stand up for our immigrant groups. We've got to unite. We've got to be together. And I'm all for making sure that we hold everybody responsible so we won't be victims of this division that's going on that he creates. So I want to say thank you for your leadership here, Assemblyman Chiu, and to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect those that are even more vulnerable in a housing crisis. And yes, we're going to continue uniting with our tenants and our residents, our homeowners, to build more housing, build more affordable housing, but also to make sure that the people who need that get into this housing in the city. These are the workforces that contribute $210 billion. That's nothing to laugh at. And by the way, most of that money goes to the federal government. We better have that money come right back to California. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your leadership on housing and in protecting our immigrants. Our next speaker is someone who for years, when she was on the Board of Supervisors, when she was in the legislature, and now as a chairwoman of our Board of Equalization, has been standing up for immigrants, Fiona Ma.
Thank you very much. My parents left China some 72 years ago. They fled to Hong Kong, to Canada, and eventually ended up in New York City, where they became naturalized citizens. My mother was a teacher. My dad was an engineer. They had me and my brother and my sister. And today I am standing here as an elected official. And it is this American dream that so many of us, our families, have come to in this country. And we need to do what we can to protect all immigrants, because It's our Muslim brothers and sisters now, but next it could be you, it could be me, it could be our families, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues. And where does it stop? And walking and marching with the women at the Women's March, going to SFO last weekend, standing here today, we need to stand together and protect those that are most vulnerable amongst us, and those are the tenants around the country. I want to thank Assemblymember Chiu for sponsoring this bill, for protecting the immigrants, the people who come here to live the American dream. And we are going to stand beside you and fight with you. And I want to thank everyone, because we are stronger by our diversity. We are stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. I mentioned earlier that we have 9 co-authors at this time. I've now had 24 bills signed by the governor. This is the fastest that I've had colleagues join wanting to support this bill from all over the state. I want to just acknowledge from Oakland and Alameda County, Rob Bonta, Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher from San Diego. We have 2 colleagues, Kansan Chiu and Ashikawa from San Jose. From the Inland Empire, Eduardo Garcia. From Los Angeles, Senator Ben Allen and Richard Bloom. My colleague and Scott and ours colleagues, Assemblymember Phil Ting. And our next speaker is someone who I have known not only for years since we spent time in law school together, but 18 years ago, our newest state senator and I co-counseled the case representing a legal immigrant who had been illegally detained by the INS. I can tell you, Scott Wiener, in his core, knows how important it is to fight for immigrant communities. Senator Wiener.
Thank you, David. And I just first want to thank David Chiu for his leadership, not just now, but for decades, on not just supporting immigrants, but supporting tenants in our city. Over and over again, he has led, and he's leading again. So David, thank you from our entire community. I'm proud to be a co-author of this measure, and I look forward to moving it through the Assembly, through the Senate, and getting the governor to sign it into law. We are, as the mayor mentioned, and we all know, in a housing crisis, and as much as we're all playing defense right now against Donald Trump, we can never forget the challenges that we face locally around housing, which have been with us for a long time and will be with us after Donald Trump is in the dustbin of history, and we need to fight really hard. Yes, let's hear it for that. We have to fight so hard to keep people stable in their housing during these difficult times. And the last thing we need is for landlords to become arms of ICE. Landlords are not part of ICE. Landlords rent property. Landlords provide housing. They should not be federal immigration enforcement authorities. And so this proposal will help move us in that direction. We need to all lock arms right now against this disaster that has come down on us from Washington, D.C. And until we're able to fix that, we need to stand in solidarity, all of us. We know that he is demonizing Mexicans and trying to say that basically anyone who's from Mexico is somehow a criminal, which is slander. That anyone who's a Muslim coming to this country must be a terrorist, which is slander, and we know he's going to keep going after more and more groups. Now is the time to stop it. Hoy en día, las casas son demasiado caras, hay demasiado desalojos, y es importante que la gente pueda quedarse en sus casas. Y los dueños no deberían de ser una parte de la migra. Eso es muy importante. Y a nuestros inmigrantes, nuestros vecinos inmigrantes, les digo que estamos con ustedes. Ustedes son una parte de California, son una parte de nuestra familia, y vamos a luchar con ustedes hasta el fin.
Gracias, Senator Wiener. Our next speaker is someone who I met when he was organizing some of the lowest income immigrant workers in our city, our janitors. And he's someone who I saw working alongside Chinese immigrant workers, Arab immigrant workers, Latino immigrant workers. He is now the newestly elected supervisor representing District 11, Asha Safai.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to reiterate what I said on Monday. We had a press conference. We introduced a resolution with the support of our entire Board of Supervisors and the mayor. In 1 week, our president has taken a wrecking ball to the Statue of Liberty. In 1 week, our president has taken a wrecking ball to the foundation of our democracy. The history of San Francisco, the history of the United States, the history of many urban areas are ones that immigrants have come, always been accepted, always built, and always made America a greater place to live. Now, yes, we have some bad parts of our history, the Chinese Exclusion Act, right? And this is reminiscent of that. But every time we've had those bumps in our history, we've always come together, we've always come out better, we've always made a stronger statement that we will not back down, and as that sign says, we will always stand up and fight. I'm a son of an immigrant. I'm from one of the countries that was just put on this ban. My mother's an American, my father was a student from Iran. I would not be standing here today if that ban were in place. 134 million people were immediately told they're not welcome in the United States, on top of the refugees and people that we have always accepted. On top of everything that everyone else said in terms of demonizing Latino immigrants, looking at people's status, the last thing we need is people living in fear as tenants. And oftentimes they're the most vulnerable. So I commend Assemblyman David Chiu for his leadership and all the people that co-sponsored. I commend our mayor for standing up for immigrants, and Board of Equalization member Fiona Ma, and State Senator Wiener, our people on the front lines, the Latino Democratic Club, all the people that are fighting on a daily basis, Mission Neighborhood Centers, Community Tenants Association, all the people that are on the front lines for tenants and immigrants. I commend you, and we stand in solidarity to make sure that we will always fight for immigrants and we will always fight for tenants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. In case folks wonder, in Sacramento, it's actually very challenging to move forward tenant legislation. Last year, I carried a tenant bill to provide protections for tenants who are facing eviction proceedings for not being blacklisted. And we got that bill through with 41 votes out of 80, a bare majority in the Assembly, and then 21 votes in the Senate, a bare majority in the Senate, to the governor's desk. And leading that effort from the advocacy community, which is a wonderful advocacy community around the state, is the Western Center for Law and Poverty, who along with the California Rural Legal Assistance Organization are our two main organizational sponsors for this bill. And spearheading that effort, Jith Maganathan, I want to thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Assemblymember Chiu, and thanks to everyone who's here today. I was driving down here from Sacramento this morning, and I took an exit to get a cup of coffee. This is an absolutely true story, and there were some day laborers waiting at the curb of a strip mall, hoping to find some work. Before Trump took office, there was a considerable degree of fear in these workers' lives. I'm sure of that. I can't imagine the level of fear that they must be living in right now, just standing there at that curb. And what we hope to do with this bill is to at least give them a degree of safety and security in their homes. Shortly after the election, I work on housing policy with a group of about 100 nonprofits statewide that provide free legal services for low-income people. I call us the invisible safety net. And I sent an email out on a listserv saying, hey, are people seeing issues with harassment of undocumented tenants by unscrupulous landlords? And mind you, this is a week after the election. Trump had not taken office, and I was flooded with responses with horrific stories of people being threatened with deportation if they reported mold that was causing asthma, electrical wiring, like Assemblymember Chiu said, if they protested sexual harassment by a landlord, in connection with gentrification, and it was statewide. And it was clear that something needed to be done. And I want to commend Assemblymember Chiu. As he said, it's not easy to get a tenants' rights bill through. And he didn't want to do a symbolic bill. This is a meaningful bill. Legal aid attorneys will be able to use the protections in this bill to protect tenants from unscrupulous landlords. And having these protections written into law, including some pretty serious penalties, will cause landlords to think twice before they try to take advantage of tenants, because you know what, those tenants might just go find a lawyer and those landlords might get caught, all right? So this is gonna make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Please rest assured of that. Again, I wanna thank Senator Wiener, Assemblymember Chiu, and the other members of the legislature who are willing to take on a very tough fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jith. One thing Jith did not mention is that typically in landlord-tenant cases, 98% of landlords are represented by attorneys, but about 10% of tenants actually get legal representation. Another person who will help share stories about what she has seen is Shirley Gibson from the Legal Services of San Mateo County.
With me today is my colleague, Andreina Leon, who's one of the workers at Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County who routinely meets with immigrants. And we were brainstorming this morning, what are some of the stories that we have heard just recently? We are those attorneys that represent the 10%. We are on the front lines, and we're seeing the day-to-day impact of the real and palpable fear that these undocumented tenant immigrants face. The role of the legal advocate community is to help any tenant sit down and decide, am I going to avail myself of my legal rights? Am I prepared for this fight? And the fear of immigration consequences is such an insurmountable barrier for a tenant who has been threatened by their landlord. There's a range of landlords who we see employ this sort of fear tactic. And I'm going to give you some examples of actual quotes that we have heard from tenants reporting this kind of behavior. One tenant said they were told to leave. Don't fight the eviction. Don't make me give you eviction documents, because if you go to court, you will be deported. That tenant was brave enough to question that assertion and come to us and ask, is that true? Do I have any legal protection? And as legal advocates, this sort of tool that this bill would create would give us a powerful thing in our arsenal to work with, to be able to tell a tenant like that, no, you have protections, we can take you to court, we can protect you. But that's the tip of the iceberg. For every one tenant who comes to us with that question, there must be legion who don't have the bravery to do that. Another tenant has come to us saying when they requested a repair, a very basic repair to their heater, they were told, don't you complain, you're lucky I let you live here at all because you don't have papers. A similar fact pattern where a tenant ventured to complain about a livability problem in the building, they said, if I call the police, you're gonna be taken back to Mexico. These are everyday stories in our tenant immigrant community. And at this stage of the climate politically that has been created with the new executive orders, we only expect it to get worse. It will most certainly escalate in the climate of uncertainty and fear that our clients live with. So as this bill works its way, hopefully, to the governor, we, as in the legal advocacy community, feel like there has never been a more essential time for these protections, and we are grateful that there are legislators who are aware of that. Thank you.
Shirley, thank you for sharing those stories. We have two more voices, and then we will conclude. But as I said earlier, the majority of landlords in our city, and hopefully around the state, do the right thing. And part of what we're hoping with this bill is that landlords who are responsible, who are ethical, will help step up and stand with us And here to help represent that is someone who has been a landlord here in the Mission, Spike Khan.
Thank you. A year and a half ago, as a San Francisco property owner, I wrote a letter to the Board of Supervisors supporting the Eviction Protections 2.0 legislation. That was legislation that would protect tenants from unscrupulous landlords using the slightest correctable offense as an excuse to evict their long-term tenants and jack up the rent. Such things as a tenant in Chinatown hanging their laundry out their window. That would have been an evictable offense before this law passed. Well, the law did pass, and the sky did not fall. The landlords are continuing to rent their buildings, such as myself, for huge profits, and the bad apples of our industry were reined in. Just today in Chinatown, an SRO caught on fire. That landlord obviously was not caring much about their tenants, and we need more protections. The properties that I own in San Francisco, I've owned since the 1990s. As a landlord, I fully support this proposed tenant protections in the bill that would protect tenants from deportation threats. In this time of racist attacks on churches and mosques and bans on immigrants returning to their homes at every airport in the States, I think now more than ever we need to stand up and fight back. This bill shouldn't be necessary, but in these times it is, and we should all support it. As property owners of our tenants' homes, we need to do more than just collect rents. We need to provide safe havens for our tenants to live without fear of attack. Our grandparents faced exclusionary immigration laws and racist attacks, and we must learn from history and protect our neighbors. What will you tell your grandchildren that you did to fight this oppressive and attacks on immigrants? It's not hard to be an ethical landlord, and I urge all of us to support this bill.
Thank you, Spike. And here to close us off, we are here in the middle of the Mission, and I want to just take a moment and thank organizations that rallied at the very last minute to come today, including La Raza Centro Legal, Latino Young Democrats, child care leaders who are here, and today we are in the Mission Neighborhood Center's home, and I want to bring up San Luis. As many of you know, this is an organization that has worked with thousands of immigrant families who are under attack because of the Trump administration. So,
thank you. Before I make some comments, and they will be brief, I want to say to Senator Wiener, órale! Great translation there, sir. Yeah, I'm impressed. So, welcome everyone to Mission Neighborhood Centers. This is the headquarters for the organization. We operate 11 facilities in the Mission community, the Excelsior, Mission Bay, and most recently in Bayview Hunters Point. And so our mission is to promote and develop leadership by providing culturally sensitive, multi-generational services that empower individuals and families to build safe, healthy, vibrant neighborhoods. And we have been in existence since 1959. Most of our clients, our constituency, is Latino, Latinas, individuals and families. And with the recent events that have taken, even as soon as Trump announced that he was going to run for president, there became a sense of fear in our community. Regardless of people's immigration status, that fear was in place. And it now has become a fear that it is intolerable. And I say that firsthand because I happen to work at a facility where we provide services to seniors and to children with our early care services provided through Head Start. And it pains and it hurts to see the level, not just of confusion, but fear and pain that they express to us on a daily basis. It's very, very painful. And I wanted to share with you a recent experience that, in my opinion, constitutes psychological warfare. So words that I don't like to use and that are seldom used, but in our community, it has become a reality. And before I do that, I would like to call a partner, a colleague to whom I have absolute and tremendous respect. His name is Mario Paz. He's the executive director of the community of the Good Samaritan Community Center. Mario, if you could please. Just last week, on a Thursday, I received a text early in the morning from another partner organization called Mission Economic Development Association, or MEDA. And the text read, ICE is paying us a visit, please be on alert. That was the first text that took place throughout the day as ICE moved from nonprofit organization to nonprofit organization. They visited MEDA, they visited Good Samaritan, they visited Mission Housing Development Corporation, and they also visited Catholic Charities Youth and Children's Services site at 10th and Mission. You don't imagine the level of despair that both our staff and our parents had to express that day. It was so painful. And I wanted to allow the opportunity for my colleague to share firsthand what he witnessed and what he experienced on that day. Mario?
Thank you, Sam. And first of all, I'd like to thank Assemblymember Chiu for proposing this legislation. I think it's very, very important because our immigrant communities are more vulnerable than ever, and we know that firsthand. Last Thursday, as Sam said, agents of ICE came to our center. We are a community center, an organization that has been around for 122 years with basically the same mission of being a welcoming environment for our immigrant communities here in San Francisco. We're a center that serves primarily families with young children. And the sanctity and safety of our center was rattled last Thursday. And it did spread fear. And fortunately, we stayed calm. We tried not to panic because our #1 priority is protecting the protection of our children. But it did spread fear in our community. And this fear is real. And although maybe this was an act of intimidation, this just makes us stronger. We are united as one city, as one state, and that's why legislation like what's being proposed today is critically important. We cannot allow this fear to really overwhelm our residents. Every resident in this state deserves protection, deserves to feel safe, including our immigrant community. And for that reason, it's critically important that we stand together and fight this hatred and this fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. And so my closing comments are one of absolute admiration, one of absolute respect for Assembly Member now, David Chiu. You know, throughout the years, throughout my career as Executive Director for Mission Neighborhood Centers, I've had an opportunity to interact with many elected officials, many. And I have to say that there were more individuals that engaged in focused rhetoric than in rhetoric and deed. And I have to say that amongst us this morning are those individuals that represent the latter. And it will start, I have to say, with Assemblymember Chiu. Thank you, Assemblymember. But we also have someone who from the onset said, this city known as San Francisco is and shall remain a sanctuary city. And that is none other than Mayor Ed Lee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with those words, I have to ask, can we please just one little chant before we close. Sí se puede. Come on. Sí se puede. 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 Got it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for taking my retreat. Thank you.
Thank you to St. Louis. Let me just say, I know the electeds have to get back to work. And I know that a lot of the media folks have noontime deadlines, but let me just say one final thing. The Speaker of the California State Legislature spoke for us a number of weeks ago when he said, and this is what we all say, all of us who are your elected officials, our community who are here, who are citizens, we are standing together, we're standing up for our sanctuary city, and we are going to tell ICE, and we're going to tell the Trump administration that if you want our family members, you have to come through us. And so I can't tell you how grateful I am that we are locking arms together to get the important work done so that our immigrant families can continue to thrive and survive and make San Francisco the best city in the world. Thank you so much for being here.